Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke. Thanks for joining us today on the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. I hope your July is going well as our industry continues to open up across the world. Today, we're going to talk about technology and fitness professionals, in particular health coaching, and some dynamics around that. And this relates to our webinar that's coming up on July 14th. The link will be in the show notes on Fitness in the Future of the Health Coach Professional. We're going to talk about a lot of trends, and our guest is going to be Ted Vickey, who's the founder and CEO of FitWell. For people that might not know Ted, he has an extensive background in the industry space, interestingly working and heading up fitness for the White House a number of years ago. He actually put treadmills on Air Force One. He is a doctor, so it's Dr. Ted Vickey. He did his research at NUI Galway on social networking and exercise. He's been involved as a brand ambassador. He's been an advisor to the American Council on Exercise. He's a hell of a golfer as well. He's working in various roles with the U.S. Golf Association and other roles. Ted's a wonderful guy, great speaker. He sits on our board of directors at the Fitness Industry Technology Council as well, and is president and CEO of FitWell. I really enjoy Ted a great deal, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about what we'll be covering in our webinar next Tuesday, July 14th. So look for that link. I hope you find this a very interesting conversation about technology and fitness professionals. So without further ado, let's bring in Dr. Ted Vickey. Well, listeners, as I said in the intro, I have my colleague, board member for the Fitness Industry Technology and friend, Dr. Ted Vickey, live from San Diego. Dr. Ted, how are you, my friend?
Bryan, I am doing fantastic. I am looking forward to sharing with you some of the nuggets of information that I'm finding all about health, fitness, and technology.
That's awesome. We love talking about that kind of subject here. And I know the listeners are going to look forward to our webinar next week. You can register it. You'll see a link in the show notes on Tuesday, July 14th, on Fitness in the Future of the Health Coach Professional. We're going to talk about, as you mentioned, Ted, technology, what's happening in that divide, what fitness professionals look like. Ted, you've been involved in a lot of organizations over the years, and as you know, we have about 400,000 fitness instructors in the United States alone as part of the fitness industry. I know that your involvement in ACE as well with the certification of a health coach. What do you think is, with the COVID situation, with technology evolving, big question, Ted, what do you think is going to happen to the role of fitness instructor, professional, personal trainer in the future?
Bryan, it was a couple of years ago. I was at a conference and I was asked the question when I was speaking, will technology replace a personal trainer? And it was one of those moments where I thought, this is going to be something I can either give the standard line or I can say what I really think. And I said, if you're a personal trainer and technology can replace you, then you shouldn't be a personal trainer, because there's a word in front of trainer, and that's personal. And over the years, I believe and I really see that the technology piece is going to allow those trainers that want to adopt it to be better trainers, to be more successful trainers, and to be the ones that people are going to go to. My favorite word these days is disruption. Bryan, when you and I were growing up, we got our allowance on Saturday. We went to the music store in the mall to buy a cassette tape, right? We only wanted one song of the cassette, but we bought the whole thing. look at what disruption has done for the music industry, right? You could download a song immediately for 99 cents. It's happened in the banking industry. And it's now, you and I have been talking about it for a couple of years, but with COVID happening, disruption has hit the fitness industry. And it's time for the industry to say, we're either going to adopt it, that being technology, or we're not. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and with your work with ACE, and having been involved with it myself, and the work that you've done with fitness professionals and your research with technology in the fitness space, you're right. I mean, technology truly is an enabler of better care, service, and support. Things like motivation, things like guidance, things like a holistic approach. And that's really the role of what I think and you think is going to become more mainstream, which is really more health coaching. Is that your vision?
It is. And I tell health coaches and personal trainers, technology is a tool. It's no different than a Stairmaster. It's no different than a strength machine. It's no different than a sit-up bench, right? And if you can take that approach, seeing it as a tool, not to be intimidated by it, but to be able to use the tool, it's going to be so much more effective, right? I'll give an example. I remember back when I was at the White House and one of my members came in the morning and said, I don't feel like working out today. Well, what did we do back in the 90s? Well, we made up some answers saying, well, you probably didn't sleep well or whatever. But Bryan, today, a health coach or a personal trainer can pull out data saying, you know what, Bryan, the reason why you don't feel like exercising today is, look, last night you had a cappuccino from Starbucks at 9 p.m. and through your DNA, we know that you don't process caffeine very well. And based on your sleep numbers, you fell asleep later than you usually do. You didn't get into that REM sleep and you got up late today. Here at the fitness center, that's why your HRV says you're not ready to exercise. Now, maybe it's a pipe dream. Maybe it's people like you and I that love this sort of data. But imagine the ability to collect that data as a health coach and to then really be able to prescribe or to suggest what sort of activity a person should do. And it's not just a daily thing. It's a weekly, it's a monthly thing, right? Fitness is not a look. Fitness is a lifestyle. And I believe that the technology is going to allow people to live that lifestyle with a health coach, a personal trainer being part of that.
Yes. And using tools in a way with technology that are intuitive, easy. They don't get in the way. What they do, as you said, is they enable, they allow people to be better at what they do. So you have been doing some interesting research. You've done a number of different studies. Is there anything you can share off the top of your head regarding how trainers have thought about technology historically up to this point? I think you've shared some stats with me before, so I hate to put you on the spot.
Sure. It was a couple of years ago, ACE did a survey on technology. And one of the things that strikes me as quite interesting was that the question was asked, do you as a personal trainer personally use technology? And the answer was something like 70%. I would guess that number is even higher today. So they use that technology when they exercise themselves. Then the question was asked, do you use it within your business? And the answer was in the 30 percentile range. Now, some people say, well, if there's not a business that, no, I think there is, right? To me, it's just a matter of teaching the trainer how to use technology efficiently within their business model, right? Bryan, you and I know that the traditional model of personal training is broken. It doesn't work. You can't continue to trade time for money because it's a limited supply. So I think what's going to happen, and I coin it the Spotify model of personal training, you're going to have people that are paying a monthly subscription to a health coach or personal trainer, and there'll be different levels where that health coach or trainer is going to be monitoring what a person does, monitoring the different weight, monitoring step count, whatever it is, and then being able to systematically give advice, information back to the client real time. And some of it may be AI enabled, some of it may be done by the trainer or the health coach. But I think that's going to happen. And it's going to happen sooner than later because of COVID. I think within the next 6 months, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And there also are, as we've said, COVID just accelerated a lot of underlying trends. Another thing that I know we've talked about in the past that I find very intriguing is the nature of the client and the services people are really looking for. So as you know, and as we've talked about before, When you're thinking of people in their 50s and older, there's a huge amount of wealth in those demographic groups compared to other more popularized groups like millennials and the different generational ones that are younger, skewed younger in the fitness industry. Yet, as people are in their 50s and 60s, health and wealth preservation are their number one motivators. And so when you think about it, in my opinion, from a market perspective, the opportunity to provide health coaching is a real need. And there are a lot of people out there with the money to pay for it. So not only is it a great idea, but it's a market opportunity, right? I mean, this isn't about, this isn't about doing it because it's cool.
No, it's not. And I think what the health coaching has allowed us as an industry to do is to look for I don't know how 30 years, 35 years, how long have we been trying as a fitness industry to integrate with the medical system? And for whatever reason, there's a lack of respect, right? When it comes to, personal trainers and doctors, they don't think the same way. I think the health coach is going to enable that to happen, right? Because you're having, it's not just fitness, it's the whole dimensions of wellness. And you're right, Bryan. Can you imagine a physician, rather than writing a prescription for a blood pressure medication, they're writing a prescription for exercise. And they're saying, go see my health coach, Bryan. He will help you. And I'll get all the information back to see that you've been doing it. I looked this up. I was curious about it. And because a lot of people say, well, you can't compare drugs and exercise. I think you can. And if you look at how many people get prescribed medications and don't take it or take it the wrong way, it's to me, it's telling. And that you can use technology, not only for medication adherence, but you can do it for exercise and you can do it for health.
Absolutely true. And in today's world, with the cost, as we know, the cost of care, especially around chronic disease, and people's financial, health preservation, wealth preservation, they're increasing financial incentive to avoid the burdensome cost of traditional health care service or sick care service, however you want to label it. There are just so many motivators and trend drivers that, this has got to happen. I don't see how it doesn't.
Well, at the end of June of 2020, there was a survey, and I think it's telling you what happened in the industry. And the survey was that 24% of Americans say that they are not going to go back to a fitness center. 24%. 30% of the people say they're going to go less. So we have a hard enough time as a fitness industry getting people to come into the brick and mortar systems that we have. So you're absolutely right, Bryan. And if you look at what COVID did, look at the big brands that have jumped in, the app development, the taking classes online, that's all been there. I don't think that's going away. In fact, I think there's going to be a lot more investment into that because, fitness is not just going to a gym, right? What are you doing the other, you might be there, 3 hours a week? What are you doing the other, how many hours during the week when you're not at the gym? And I think once a gym or a fitness center can embrace that, they're going to see so much more potential. It's not just about the brick and mortar. It's the whole experience.
That's exactly right. And in those bricks and mortar, centers, having the professionals with the tools, the equipment or whatever it is, with the apps work seamlessly so that, Ted, when Ted's home or when Ted's on the weekend golfing or he's doing different activity, Ted is, for listeners that know, I talked about it in the intro, he's a ringer in the golf course. But don't bring any money with you when you go to play golf with Ted. The great brands are going to be the ones that integrate in a way that makes it really user-friendly and helpful to the customer to be motivated to adopt that lifestyle you talked about, and to have support when they're in the club and outside the club, when they're connected to their healthcare professional or doctor prescribing. There's complete transparency. There's 360-degree view of the situation from everyone, and doing things like you mentioned, sleep, right? Other things that are really important, right?
Well, talking about sleep, you and I've talked about this before, Bryan, where when the apps first came out, right, on my watch, I had to click a button to start my sleep. Well, now today, you don't need to do that. It knows when you fall asleep. Is it perfect technology? No. But look, it's perpetual beta is what I call it. It's getting better day after day after day. And it gets better because more people use it day after day after day. Right. So it's that natural progression. And we're at a point now where sleep, look, if you're not getting a good night's sleep, you're not getting that restful part of sleep for you to be able to go have a good exercise session or to be able to recover from a heart attack or from a cancer scare. That's not happening. So sleep, in my opinion, over the next year, 2 years, is going to be that magic word. And if you're a personal trainer or health coach, I would strongly suggest that you learn as much as you can about sleep, because there's going to be a huge desire and need to have that type of certification.
That's absolutely true. And now with technologies, we talked about, just looking at my Apple Watch. I think you've got one on.
I do.
And the integration going on with people's personal devices, as you said, providing all that data, just the possibilities of doing what we're describing for fitness centers and professionals, it's right there. It's all right there. This wasn't even possible, 3 or 4 years ago. And now it's ubiquitous.
It's there. And I think right now we're getting better, but the data is still in silos, right? So you have your Fitbit data, you have your Apple data, you have your Withings blood pressure data, you have your scale data. And it's difficult as a personal trainer or health coach to see all that data in one place. So we're working on a platform that's going to allow all that information to come in. And I think about it like the New York Stock Exchange, where the trader sits back and they see the color codes up on the screen, green if it's buy, red if it's to sell. I think that's going to happen in the fitness industry. And you're going to be able to watch a person. And if Bryan is doing exactly what Bryan was supposed to do from the health coach, he's going to be green. And it's going to get some motivational messages. But if Bryan, if you're on travel, you're going to Germany or whatever, and you're starting to go down on your steps, well, your health coach is going to be able to ping you on your phone or email you or text you saying, hey, Bryan, I noticed, you're not doing, how can I help you? How can I support you? And that's where that AI comes into play, right? So it knows how many steps you want to take, what the goal is. And if you're getting there, great. If you're not, you're going to have the ability to be motivated at that time, not later that night where you're saying, geez, I wish I'd gotten this earlier because I missed my step count. No, it's going to happen real time. You're going to get it immediately.
That's right. So Ted, again, thank you for making time. I'm looking very forward to our time together next Tuesday, July 14th, 2 p.m. Pacific, I think it is. But you'll see it in the show notes, guys. You can click on to register now for free. I'm looking forward to that chat on fitness in the future of the health coach. But what I know our listeners would appreciate, as kind of a wrap up, Ted, is what would be your advice? You mentioned about sleep, what would be your counsel and advice to a fitness professional, a personal trainer? What should you be thinking about and working on, given these dynamics at play today?
Well, I tell you, Bryan, I think the fitness industry after COVID is in a lot of trouble. I see a lot of personal trainers out of work. They're not working at the big box chains anymore. So I think a personal trainer, health coach, if you want to be involved in this industry, you want to be able to make a career out of it, you still can. So that's the first message. And, I'm doing a summit, and Vickey and yourself are very gracious in the sponsoring. So if you want to learn the business side of fitness, personal trainers, health coaches are great at the science of that. But when it comes to business, maybe not as good. So if you go to tedv.link/climb, tedv.link/climb, at the end of the month, we're going to have a summit. It's going to be recorded, and you're going to learn all sorts of things about branding, about how to use technology, how to do a business plan, all those things. And I think that's important, to be able to understand the business side of fitness, because there still is an opportunity. And to wrap up this talk on technology, adopt some sort of technology. Just don't use it. Go out and try it. You've got to find what works for you. And then once you understand that, once you're comfortable doing it, bring in a couple of clients, say, hey, I'm trying this new system. Will you help me? And then once it works, you can expand and allow it to be your model, if you will, because people are going to be searching for ways to train with trainers, to consult with health coaches on the internet. There's a way to do it. And those that figure out how to do it are going to be successful. Those that are hesitant to do it may not be in the industry in the next year.
Yeah, that's a lot of truth to it. Ted, I'm always so grateful for your service on the Fitness Industry Technology Council Board of Directors. And as I told everyone in the intro, you've done a lot of work on this. over the years, and I know people are really going to appreciate your views regarding this very important subject. And I really look forward to our webinar next week where we can visit a little bit more on this.
Bryan, thanks for what you do for the industry, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ted. Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Vickey Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.